Well, hello YouTubians. I have to crouch in my chair so that my head fits in the same picture as this. Today we have the IC746 half power out on all bands, allegedly. So let's throw it on a power supply and hook it up to a bird, which I've kind of known. I know where that puts out, and the power supply, it tells us how many amps it puts out. And let's see what we get out of this thing, and we'll go from there. So, without further ado, let me get you focused to where you can see what's happening. I want to move this. It's going to be a little uncomfortable for a second. Just trying to get myself out of the way and see what all you can see. All right. I don't know if I turn it that way. I'm sure we'll do this in multiple different ways. You can see the power supply, I believe. You can see the bird. So let's turn it on. Let's turn on the power supply first. Hope we don't smoke anything. Red to red, black to black. We're good to go there. But the one lead is not very tight, is it? All right. Let's see. 12, 13.6 volts. Can you see that? I don't know. I don't put my head in front of there. And let's turn this on. All right. Display came up. It's into a dummy load right now, so just in case it went crazy, I'm on antenna 1. That looks pretty good. All right. And I know on these that the display is kind of dim when you first turn it on. After a minute or two, it seems to get brighter and brighter. Nice display. Let's see. Where's the volume at on this? Forgotten we're in ham radio world. We don't call it volume. We call it audio frequency. Right, well, I didn't expect to hear anyone. So let's just see what happens. Put it on CW. Let me find that. It's on upper sideband now. Menu, CW. I don't know if this will go anything without a tone. Let me see. Yeah, I think you have to have a tone for that, but we can put on AM, see what we get. Alright. So on AM, 28.566. Looking at the bird over here, it's a 100 watt slug. Looked like it went about halfway. I went to 40 watts. That's AM. Let's see what our current drain is over here. Let's watch over here. I don't know if this towel's out of the way enough for you to see it. I'll put it up on something to raise it up a little bit. Let's see if you're watching what I'm watching. We'll hit transmit. 11.2 amps. Untransmit. That's an AM. Let's see if we get it with FM now. Turn that down a little bit. And let's transmit. Transmit. There's shown about 70 watts on the bird, 14.8 amps. 14.8 amps. So let's see, where is... All right, transmit. 4.7 amps. You can just see it's starting to move up on the bird scale. There's 40, there's 60, there's 75, and that's as far as she's going to get. 14.9. Okay. So let's try another frequency. Let's try, oh, I don't care. Let's try 14 something. 14.2. 14.3, that'll be fine. And let's see. We'll start way down here again. Transmit. Wait, what the heck? Which one did I turn up? I turned mic gain. Transmit. Alright, there it goes. Same thing, 75 watts is as far as it's going to get. Now the amplification unit for VHF is different, so I'll need to put a different meter on it because I don't have a bird slug for the VHF range. And of course, that's in a different antenna hole too. So let's see what we get there. Let me turn this off. I'll switch things around. Turn it off. I'll switch things around, and I'll be back. All right, get things turned around a little bit here. I have a UHF watt meter in there. Everything's still hooked up the same way. So let me turn on the power. Let me turn on the power. All right, and let's change it to somewhere in that band, 146.0970 is good with me. Let's see, we get power, Cal, SWR. Let's just see if it's working on that range. Transmit. Well, it seems to be working. The SWR didn't fly off the scale. Let's check power. Alright, so this scale here, the 200 scale, so 100 would be right about there. That's AM. Let's see what FM is, because we tested everything else. So the 100 is where it says 100. So we were getting on the other one around 75, so between 50 and 100. Let's see what we get. Alright, 4.5 amps are shown over here. Let me start to crank it up. Right about the same thing, 75 watts, 13.3 amps. Alright, so not a drastic terribleness, but definitely not up to the radio's performance standards. So we'll do some research into it before I tear it apart and just confirm that it should do 100 watts on FM. I believe it should. I have to grab the manual. Of course, it's probably on computer. Then after that, we know that there's two different circuits inside there. One's going to be for the HF range and one will be for the VHF range. Well, they're both putting out the same, so I doubt there's a failure identical in both circuits. So it's probably prior to these two circuits, something upstream of these two circuits that's causing the issue. Maybe not giving enough power from behind here to the two. So it may be a preamp stage, whatever. We'll take a look. I'll look on YouTube and find out if anyone else has messed with one of these. I seem to remember a lot of people talking about these, I don't know if it was a 746, but the Icoms around this vintage having power problems. Hopefully it's nothing that can't be easily remedied, but that's where we're at. Before I crack it open, I want to kind of know what I'm looking for, so I'll do that first and we'll check back and we'll decide how we're going to go about it. Alright, I'll give you kind of a bird's eye view of it, taking it apart. It's a bunch of screws all around here, here, on the side, but it's not quite ready to come off yet. I'll take this side handle off, which I guess is a good idea because the case probably isn't strong enough to hold that, so it goes into the radio frame a little bit. And there's some little plastic washers behind it. I don't know what washers, shields, whatever you want to call it for lack of better words. And that keeps you from scratching it up, so just don't lose those. Now this should lift right off here unless there's some in the back too. Here we go. And you're going to find with this, as well as most of them, the speaker's probably attached right, oh no, the speaker's under here. So far so good, but one thing I do remember about this is it's got this shield on the top. And there's just screws all the way around that. So I'm not going to bore you. We'll take the screws off and I will show you what happens next. Alright, so after you get the last of those screws out, you want to be careful pulling this off because half of it goes underneath the speaker. Not half of it, but two of the tanks. The speaker's bolted in here and here, and then the tanks go in. So just kind of, you can work it out of here with that. There we go, get it from the side, and I should be able to just pull it right out, slide it out. There we go. Once you get it past the speaker, you're good. I'm going to put that somewhere. I'm going to put my head in front of the camera because then everyone will pick up my bald spots. Okay, so if you haven't seen this enough in any of these, what it looks like inside. So if you're working on one of these and you need to see how it looked inside, didn't remember where something went or how something was run, that's it. Alright, put this back, and we're going to have to get the schematic and start troubleshooting. We already started by looking here, and we checked basically two different antenna ports, and it'd be this one and the UHF or the VHF one here, and these are two HFs, so you can have two different antennas back here. So we checked all this and all the switching here because we were all the way up into the power section, which is here, the power amplifier section. So we kind of know everything here floating over this way is good because we had the same problem no matter what band we were on. And here it kind of divides up. So it's got to be something prior to all this. So something this way. Not necessarily this way on the radio. It could be on the other side or on another board somewhere. So let me get a schematic up there and we'll decide where we're going to go from here. Alright, I want to document a couple of things before I tear into it too much. I'm pretty new at Icom, so I had to figure out what all the controls do. So that's not as important. The power supply. Let's see, resting, receiving, 1.3 amps about. I don't know how accurate that whole gizmo is. That's at 13.6 volts. That doesn't sound too out of the ordinary. Still into a dummy load on HF, and I'm there. I think that's one of the things you got to be careful with this radio is that it's HF and VHF, so it's got a different antenna output for VHF. So if you're doing some testing and you find yourself going back and forth, you're either going to need two dummy loads or a really good memory. Anyhow, I'm in the HF area, and there was a couple things I wanted to look at because I did read that a lot of people were kind of confused about the whole ALC meter thing. So the first thing we'll do is, let's see, I got the power turned all the way up. I'm going to turn the mic gain about 3/4 of the way up. We'll go to sideband. I have a mic here now. So we'll key the mic and see what the ALC says. One thing I noticed I want to add here to my SWR is extremely low. I'm into a dummy load, and it's going through the bird meter over there. So let's see if that's on. I'll turn that on to record peak, and we'll just key this. ALC does probably nothing. I want to zoom in more on the bird than the power supply because we don't really need that too much. We already know. So we'll concentrate between that meter and then the bird meter. I also have this in here, and the reason I had that in there is I was watching the signal on the scope just to see if it looked distorted. It looked fine to me. This is just basically an inductive connection so that I don't have to worry about blowing up my scope. Let's see, what do I have? Oh, what I want to do then is check the power. So let's see, yellow. You see, according to the look at the bird both here and there, I'll turn up the mic a little bit louder. About the same thing. I'm getting about 75 watts. That's all she's going to get out on sideband. But you'll see the ALC does nothing until it works fine when I talk. And it's going up to almost 100%. That's probably about where you'd really want it in the real world. So now let's see, when I turn it on to AM. Now, excuse me, now it's on AM. We're going to key it. We'll see what happens. Power set at full. So this does about 40 watts out on AM. At least that's what it should do. So right before that 50 right there, I would think. Yeah, it looks like about right. Let's see. Now when I talk into it. That's concerning. And that's what I thought I saw yesterday. When I talked into it on AM, it went up to 100 watts and I saw the bird go up. Let's try that one more time. Hello, hello. Yeah, I don't know if I like that it does that. I know the Kenwoods, you set them, that's as high as they'll go. They'll start to clip, and back it down actually. Alright, let's see FM. FM, actually I'm going to go back to AM and pay more attention to what the ALC meter is doing without talking or anything. ALC meter goes, that's with about 3/4. I'm going to turn the mic gain all the way down. Same thing. ALC. Let me see if it changes at all when I turn the power down. I'm going to turn the power all the way to 0, which is about 5 watts. Same thing. I get past full deflection for the ALC. Let's turn it on to FM. Same thing. ALC goes way up past full deflection. Let's see when I turn the power up. I'm going to keep it keyed while I turn the power up. And there it goes. So the power, I know you can't see what I'm doing, but it is funny. It goes all the way up, nice and linear movement until I get to 3/4 about, and then it just stops going up. Doesn't show me any more power, and of course it's not putting out any more than 3/4 of its power. The main thing I'm concerned with is why the AM is going above the 40 watts. And I looked at the ALC for this, and it says 40 watts maximum is how it's limited. So I don't know if that's indicating the problem that's here, if that's just something else to be compounded with, or if somebody made some type of a modification on this radio, or if somebody changed some adjustment. I looked at everything down here and nothing's burned up. Everything looks really nice. The signal coming out looks nice. I didn't do too much in-depth to see if one of the transistors is starting to fail, but it does 75 to 80 watts, which is kind of odd. And again, nothing's warm. I mean, you can reach in here and touch all the preamps, and they're cold as cucumbers. So that's what I think that was all that I needed to document here, was what's happening with the ALC meter and the anomaly on AM, which if I modulate AM, I go probably well over 100 watts, and I don't think that's supposed to happen. I find that more concerning than only having 75 or 80 watts out. But let me look into that a little bit further, and I'm probably gonna post this because I don't want to get too long into it, because I don't even really know where I'm going yet with it. I'm trying to still decide how I want to start troubleshooting this and decide what the problem is. There's a lot of Icom books. Of course, this isn't as old as some of my Kenwood stuff, so there's a lot of Icom stuff online, and you can find a lot of stuff, a lot of good schematics, but sometimes they're a little bit hard to see. The printing wasn't real good on the schematics, but I was able to find a lot of information on that and the service manual. But the schematics I was used to the way Kenwood did things, and not saying these are worse, they're just different, and it's going to take me a little getting used to. Kind of like they have bed sheets, and they broke it into like 40 different pages, and there's one page, and you have to kind of look back and forth with pages. When I find the best thing to do is save the schematic as a PDF, and you can we'll just say there's three pages for the main unit. You can save all 3 of them and then bring them up as PDF, and then you can bring them up, copy and paste them right into a paint document and slide them where they have to go, and then you can do what you want on that. Of course, when you want to print it out, it's either going to be this big, like a little tiny thing, or work with it on the computer, and that's kind of what I found to do. Again, not better or worse, just different. So That's where we're at with the IC 746. But kind of a neat radio. It does it. I played with the receive a lot, and it definitely has a lot of options. So. All right, well, thanks for watching. If you have anything to add, please feel free to add it. Sometimes I'm not real good at finding the responses. I don't get notified for some reason. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Take care.